Good afternoon. It's not evening yet. Welcome. This is the resumption of the special meeting and the study session. We're going to go into the study session agenda. You're up, Mr. Swenson.
Thank you, Mayor Barrett and council members. Welcome to the study session. We have two items in the time remaining, the first is an item that's coming back to you from an earlier study session discussion, actually a couple of earlier discussions, and that is how we respond to the Sun City West fire service delivery issues in the county islands. And you'll recall at the last council discussion, we talked about either going to a subscription method or a district method for the city to provide those services to residents of the island. What the staff committed at that time was to analyze the pros and cons of both of those different service delivery models. So we've had a staff team doing just that. Analyzing the pros and cons and coming to a recommendation which they'll present now. And so Fire Chief Bobby Reese will lead the discussion, and he'll be supported by Deputy City Manager Jeff Tyne, who led the staff team. Bobby?
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Mayor and Council, good evening. Just to remind you and refresh of the area that we're talking about, it's in the Pinnacle Peak area road, kind of that splits it between 83rd Avenue and Lake Pleasant Highway. And I think Mr. Swenson covered that very well as to the discussions and what we left here with last session. So we did the pros and cons, and our team did the pros and cons of the fire district, and we also did it for the subscription service. On the fire district, we're going to start with first is that the pros were that every resident in the county island would pay a tax for the fire district. It would provide a consistent fire service throughout the county island and may lead to a fully annexation somewhere later on in time. Taxes would be collected by the Maricopa County, and it would be competitive, lower tax rate than anything that's going in, any other services being provided in that area right now. As far as the cons is that we would be giving up some control to an independent fire board that once you establish it. Acquiring 51 plus 1% is timely and hard to accomplish. Gaining approval to provide service from current providers such as Rural Metro was still unknown. And we would have 1 year to collect the signatures, including having to go through a county hearing. It's possible that we could not get enough votes of 50 plus 1%. And once the board is established down the line, and whatever IGA we would have with them is that they could decide to go with another provider, fire provider. Once residents receive the district, they could, in the long term, decide that they have no interest to come into the city, be annexed into the city. Requires use of third-party administrator to figure out what the cost will be. On the subscription side, the pros are that only those in the county island that want to contract with the city do so. It's cost recoverable, it can be created and mobilized very quickly. No petitions are needed. Competitive low rates again, and attractive to most residents in that area. Cons is that it's a patchwork approach, that you could still have 1, 2, 3 providers in the area. Need to develop our own billing system, and it's a possibility that we could get a low subscription rate in the area. And the subscription system is new and untested approach. We just don't have a lot to look at with that kind of system. So the team kind of kicked it around, and we came up with a couple of questions, and that was, how do we capitalize on the pros of both options, and how do we minimize the cons of both options? And we came up with a hybrid of that we think would do that. And we would offer up a subscription system to the area, which we could mobilize pretty quickly and start collecting some fees pretty quickly and provide the service pretty quickly. And as we do that, we would move towards and try to sell them on a fire district on the long run. And so if at the end of the week we get the 50 plus 1% of the district as we go through that process, then we would acquire the whole county island. If we don't get the 50 plus 1%, then we would just keep going with the subscription, but that would already be established and we wouldn't have lost any time. So that's our recommendation. The methodology and implementation would be our next step that we would kind of hammer out in the team, and the financial analysis as to what it's going to take to get it done.
How long would that take?
Questions?
How long would that take? The implementation, methodology, and then financial analysis?
We would assemble the team, and I would think that it would take us, probably another month or so.
And so in a month or so, you start selling subscriptions?
Possibly.
Questions? Bill?
Chief Reese, could you explain to me exactly what a subscription is, and if it's paying for a fire service, what happens if they don't pay? Would we not respond?
What it would default to is a system we have now, that rural metro has by law, the ability to have that contract with the citizens if they have a subscription or not. And what happens is, because we have a mutual aid agreement with rural metro, is more than likely is rural metro would still call us. We would provide the service. However, is we would collect from rural metro would collect from those people that didn't have the subscription, and at whatever 100% plus a collection rate, and then pay us for 100% recovery, is the way it would work.
So it doesn't matter whether they have a subscription or not, you would still respond to a need. But then if they didn't have a subscription, you would collect it from rural metro, correct?
Yes, that's a plan right now.
Okay.
Is that we would respond, and we would collect for our services one way or the other. It would be more expensive to that resident if they took that route. It's pretty expensive.
Mr. Abrams?
Thank you, Mayor. I really don't have a question, but I have a comment. I think that, you guys have done a great job of analyzing this. What I would like to see is, this has been going on for, it seems like forever, and I'd like to get some consensus to move this forward, because I think by doing what we're doing now is not working, and we need to make rural metro notice and stand up and say, look, you know what, Peoria is making a stand, and we're going to do the right thing. It's obvious that they haven't, and now we have to. And so I'd like to see this move forward.
Mr. Ames?
Yeah, Sun City West right now is doing subscriptions, right? Or how are they?
Mayor and Councilman Ames, Vice Mayor Ames, you're correct, is they have annexed into their district approximately 90 to 100 residents in that area. And we are still in dispute through the automatic aid system as to if we have to provide that service or not, or if they have to pay us for that service.
Could we offer subscriptions to those individuals?
That is a legal question that I would refer to.
Oh, he was waiting for it. He gave me a little slip.
Mayor, council, the answer is yes. The difficulty is they would have to get out of the fire district, which basically requires the area to go through the same process as they went through to get in. But conceivably, that could happen, or they could conceivably just wait until the city annexes that area, and if they want to be annexed, they automatically come out of the fire district. So it could be a combination of they get out by taking a subscription and ask to get out and go through the process, or the city annexes it, and then at their consent, of course, and then they come out automatically.
Okay. My other question, doing a subscription is not signing that you want to be annexed. That would be a
No,
separate
it's not.
signature,
It's just
right?
a contract for a service, much like the city contracts with individuals for lots of services. It doesn't commit you to anything other than paying for that particular service.
Well, we could say you could do a subscription, or you can be annexed, or they could do both too, right?
If they annex, then they're just a
While we're
citizen and
out
get it
there.
for free. Just like every other citizen, it's just part of the services we provide.
Mr. Tillman?
So, thank you. So, thinking of the system, is the fire district, do we feel that more residents would be interested in the fire district as opposed to full annexation? Is that why we're pursuing that? Or is it that we can annex, do we still have to have all the rules about continuity being next to city property in order to be in the fire district?
Councilman Toma, members of the council, a County Island Fire District has to include it can include all or part of a county island, except that you can only create one in a city. So you're limited to one, and it basically requires a majority of the residents. That assumes that a majority of the residents want another special district. Many times, a majority of the residents don't want another special district. Subscriptions, on the other hand, don't require that.
Okay, so we can piecemeal the subscriptions
We
and
could
where that they are.
piecemeal, yeah, versus you can only have a single County Island Fire District in a city, and it takes a majority of the property by both value and number.
Just like annexation,
Just like
except that it would be
annexation.
more likely to get approved as a fire district.
Just like annexation, it takes that majority in order to form it.
Councilmember, so I think the intent that we had was to essentially be able to provide this service quickly. I think to Councilmember Edwards' point is to quickly be able to provide a service that the city of Peoria would be able to provide through the subscription service, with making sure that we have an information campaign to show that you would also have the ability to do a fire district. And ultimately, we will continue our campaign to have those residents consider annexation fully into the city proper. So it's really kind of a multi-step approach for that. But I think to Mr. Edwards' point is we wanted to quickly be able to respond to them.
So, if I may, so the fire district, if it were to be successful, does that automatically supersede the properties currently annexed by Sun City Fire?
No, it doesn't. Those properties would not be part of the County Island Fire District, and so it would not supersede those 90 annexations. They would still remain Sun City West.
So again, one of the items, there's approximately 900 units that are in that area. There's about 90 that we believe that in some way could have that district
Yes.
affiliation. They would probably have to check that. It might be as low as 40. The
Yeah.
point being is that means there's 860 units that we could quickly get into a district if that time comes. But again, we want to make sure that we can provide those residents quickly an opportunity to get
Yeah.
our service, and so we want to market a subscription as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Other questions? Let me see if we can get consensus here. The idea is to go ahead and begin the subscription service, and then eventually hoping to eventually grow that into a fire district. But the subscription services would be done now. And essentially what it is to counter Sun City West. Should we do that or not? Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
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 Go for it.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, council.
Light the
Appreciate that.
fire.
No, that's just
Light the
bad
fire.
metaphor.
And the second issue is also related to fire and emergency medical service delivery. So Chief Reese and Jeff will stay here. They'll be joined by Jim Bratcher, our emergency medical services director. And this is the issue that has also been before the council several times before, and it has to do with how we deliver ambulance service or patient transport. As you all know, we currently deliver the service by a contract with a private company, PMT, and as we have discussed in the past, the council is aware that world of service providers, the companies, has changed quite a bit since the council contracted with PMT some time ago. Those of you that were on the council at the time will remember that we did a request for proposals, and PMT and Southwest Ambulance, the two main providers, competed vigorously for the city's business, and the council awarded the contract to PMT. Since then, those two companies have merged, and they are basically one company, and they have suffered financial difficulties, in fact, filing for bankruptcy protection as a company. So that the world of private ambulance service delivery is one that's changing quite a bit, and not in a way that benefits cities generally. And so the city of Peoria, along with a number of other cities in the valley, are taking a fresh look at how ambulance service is provided. And what we are looking at is the potential of getting a certificate from the state of Arizona, termed a certificate of need, which would enable us to deliver our own ambulance service should the council choose to. So what we're going to brief the council on now is the status of that discussion and our desire to put in an application to be able to preserve our right to deliver that service. By putting in the application, it does not bind the city, and there's no financial requirements that we are obligated to pay other than a simple $100 application fee, but it enables us to potentially protect our interests long-term should the council choose to make that decision. And it provides us with an ability to continue contracting in a variety of different ways. There's no council action needed on this one, but we wanted to make sure that you were all aware of the work that's underway and the progress that we're making. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Chief Reese and Jeff Tyne and Jim Bradshaw.
Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Any questions? I'll go pretty quickly because I think that Mr. Swenson said it very eloquently. The CON is a business license that the state hands out for ambulance service. And as Mr. Swenson said, we used to have a contract with PMT. We still do. However, that changed when Rural Metro bought out PMT and became the only provider in the county. The contract that we have now, it will expire in 2015 in August, and it's the last. This year was the last of our renewals. What was interesting this year is that after the bankruptcy and the reorganization, is Rural Metro approached us and approached a lot of the other cities in trying to cut back some of the services and the amount of ambulances that they were providing the cities. We fought that and didn't agree with them and told them that that would leave a very bad taste in our mouth going forward. And so they left the contract as is, which still is a concern for next year as we start to negotiate on that. With that, in that bankruptcy and that reorganization, they were bought out by a corporation by the name of Oak Tree Corporation that is an investment management firm. They're a banking investment firm, which have really no interest in ambulances in large, and is where some of the concerns come in. So one of the concerns is that Rural Metro will continue to want to look at ways to cut their services, and that our municipalities are considering more of a long-term approach with the ambulance services to keep a high level of service delivery to our cities. Rural Metro's approach now is to look at a service delivery that would be essentially a partnership with the municipalities. Rural Metro is the current provider in Peoria with the CON, so they're the only ones that could do business with CON at this point in time. And previously, there was no support for private ambulances for the municipalities or for the municipalities to go forward and get a CON. Rural Metro has indicated support for municipal CONs at this point with shared responsibility in a form of a IGA. So they're willing to split the pie, and we think it may be a healthy alternative to the reduction of some of the service delivery. A CON takes, up to 24 months, and in the application phase, if everything goes smoothly, if you don't have people opposing it, it's usually people that have CONs that can oppose it, it can, if you don't have that opposition, it can go as quickly as a year. But it doesn't, not a very quick process. The application, we have no obligation, is we can withdraw it at any time. So once we go through the process, we apply it. If we figure that that's not what mayor and council wants to do and that there's alternatives, then that's the route we go, and we could withdraw it. Other jurisdictions that are currently applying for CONs or getting close to doing that is the cities that you see there below: Mesa, Tempe, Goodyear, Chandler, Surprise, Glendale, Sun City, and Superstition. So all of those are looking at one form of model or the other that entails a private-public model. Again, CON is not binding. Staff is moving forward to protect Peoria's interest in looking at should, once we get a CON, we're a little bit more secure in that if the private provider gets into trouble and goes away because they're a national conglomerate, they're not just local, is that if they were to go away, we would have the CON could provide the service to our citizens without having to figure it out if we're going to throw them in the back of pickups or what we're going to do the following day. So, and that became very real when Rural Metro first went into bankruptcy, was that if they went away, what the cities were going to do to provide transport service. So no council action is required at this time. Next step is submitting the application, costs $100. We'll continue to work with Rural Metro, which is the only provider right now in the city of Peoria, for a possible partnership where we're looking at kind of splitting, where we would take the ALS portion, they would take the basic life support transport. So I don't want to get into the weeds too much, but continue to refine the financial aspects, providing the ambulance service, and provide regular updates to council. Questions?
Aside from the cities you listed, there are cities throughout the state that are also applying for the CONs, aren't there?
Yes, Mayor.
Because I remember from the League of Cities, UMO has been pushing this for years. James?
Yeah, this isn't my main question, but Phoenix already has a CON, right? They've had it for quite a while.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Ames, Phoenix has had a CON for about 30 years now.
30 years. So you're well aware, you work there?
Yes, and partially manage that area.
Can you give us any insight to why Rural Metro can't really meet the contract? It's a cost basis, they're saying, right, I assume? And why is that? They assume they
Vice
could
Mayor
originally.
Ames, it is purely a business approach. It's no longer a service delivery approach. And again, it's a company, a big corporation that is being managed from the eastern part of the country.
It's a financial company that
It's
just
a
is
fun-
looking
it's
at
a-
the finances,
It's
not
a-
looking at the.
a banking investment
But the
company.
original contract they agreed to, PMT, I remember when they presented, they were going
That was
to
Rural
do these
Metro
services
Corporation.
and,
That was an
yeah.
ambulance corporation
And it
at
would
that
cost
time.
such and such, and we agreed, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So that expires August 2015.
okay.
So we're trying to look ahead.
And the CON, if we get that, we don't have to implement it, but we could hold it, is that right? Or or is there, once we receive it, we have to act, or our attorney looks like he wants to
Right
say
now
something?
is, Mayor and Vice Mayor Ames, is that the way the legislature is written right now, we would have to act, and we would be given a few months to act on it. Now, that could be one ambulance if we chose to it. is
Oh, we
by
could
the way
act
the
in a
law-
more limited
By
way.
the way the law is.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
there is some legislation already being worked on that could change all that we would have more time to break into the business.
And I assume we want to do a cost-benefit analysis and look at all of this, right? And
Yeah, absolutely.
while we're
Before-
waiting for the CON, we can start that.
Yeah, absolutely, we are. And before we would be coming back with you with any recommendation about going into the direct provision of that service, we would be doing a very detailed analytical cost-benefit analysis, and stacking that up against the various options that we'd have with continuing to contract in the private sector. And as Chief Reese was mentioning, we could do it either by similar to what we're currently doing, and that would be the contract for all services, or they can be broken down potentially into advanced life support being done one way and basic life support being done another way. And so there's a lot of different permutations that we will be analyzing before we come back to council next calendar year with a recommendation.
Thank you.
Other questions? Mr. Toma?
I understand that you had said that Rural Metro, formerly PMT, is the only provider currently in the city of Peoria, but are there other providers, say, I think Southwest Ambulance was mentioned before, are there other providers that could potentially do this? Private sector, that is?
Councilman Toma, yes, there are a couple companies that are going through the process at this point, so there could be another provider coming early next year.
You know, one thing just for clarification to be aware is that Southwest and PMT actually merged to be part of Rural Metro. So the other firms are not those entities.
As
Thank you.
Councilman Toma, the only company in town right now from Maricopa County is Rural Metro, and they bought up Southwest years ago, and in the last 2 years, they bought up PMT.
So there's no other private company now
There is not.
in Maricopa County? Okay, thank you.
Any questions? When did you want to submit the application?
Mayor, we're looking at hopefully getting it together and submitting by the late December
This year?
this
Late
year.
December. Okay. Go ahead.
But you did tell me that once we get it, we have to implement it, so you may want to, and you said it takes 2 years, is that just an estimate, or is it always 2 years?
Councilman, Vice President.
You may
Vice
want to
Mayor
time it,
Ames,
right?
is the earlier you put in for it, the earlier that it can come to fruition, because it's a year to 2 years out of planning. So if you wait, then you're looking another 2 years out. So the earlier you start the process is 2 years out, we'll be having this conversation if we still want to go forward with the ambulance service. And at any time, we could pull out.
Yeah, I understand
Process.
that, but 2 years is it's pretty much the time limit for the approval, right? And the legal things they have to go through and so forth.
Approximately,
the
yes.
Process, okay.
Other questions? I got one. If Glendale got a con, could they extend their service? Would that prevent us from getting one?
Mayor, no, it would not prevent us from getting one, and as the law reads now, is they can't extend their services into another municipality.
All right. Other questions? I'll look for consensus here. Should they move forward? Question?
So if the application is submitted next month and it's approved, the city of Peoria is required to implement their own ambulance service?
Councilman Rivera, once we submit, the process will take a year to 2 years. So I mean, in about 2 years from now, and they gave us a CO when, then we would have the discussions that we would actually be putting an ambulance service into place.
I
But
understand.
we're not going to be able to put an ambulance service in place next month, for example.
No, that wasn't my question. My question was, if the 2 years pass and the agency that oversees these applications, if they approve it, are we then forced to have the ambulance service, or is it still in our control to make that decision?
Councilman Rivera, at that point, we would still have control of some options, and there's a lot of options, as Mr. Swenson said, is that we could phase it in and partner with one of the ambulance companies, where we would phase in one ambulance at a time. The city of Surprise is looking at that model, where they're going to get 2 ambulances and then phase them in, so.
Or keep the status quo too?
Or keep the status quo.
Okay.
Other questions? Carlo?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, if we do get our own ambulance service, maybe it's the wrong time to ask, what's it going to cost? We don't have no idea yet, or how many ambulances we're going to need?
Councilman Leon, we're
Leone.
looking at, we would probably need 4 ambulances in order to take care of the ALS portion of it, and perhaps some of the BLS portion of it. We would be going for a full CON. So we're not going for just an ALS portion, we're going for both. So it'd give us a lot of flexibility. And there's a
Councilmember-
cost recovery. We think we could break even at this point. I mean, we're still looking at it from the 10,000 view, but roughly, you're looking at $1 million an ambulance when it's all said and done. But you recover about $1 million per ambulance.
How many we going to need, any idea? Ambulance?
To start off with, we would need 4.
4?
And I think if we got fully into a full system, we would be looking at 6.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Ron?
Well, right now, our paramedics show up anyway, right? So, along with the ambulance. So they could show up right away. Right? Isn't that right? Isn't that one of their benefits?
Yeah, and all of the different points that Vice Mayor Ames and Councilmember Leone are mentioning are the kinds of things we're going to be analyzing before we come back.
So can we reach consensus to have them move forward and submit the application and begin the analysis?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Go for it.
Thank you very much.
We're just trying to keep you busy.
You're doing that, doing an excellent job.
We don't want Bobby to get bored. Right? So that's all we have, Mayor.
Okay. This time we're adjourned until 7 PM on the regular meeting.